Good evening. Mahoney, Jacobici, Jacobowitz, Jewish history, the Exodus, and beyond. Two new films have come up on the Jewish horizon, one by a non-Jew, Patrick Mahoney, did a film called Patterns of Evidence. And Simon Jacobowitz went searching for the Exodus, a Jewish man doing the same thing in his own way, both of them trying to find evidence for the most important, actually second most important event in history of the world. The most important event in the history of the world is the giving of the Torah, which happened 7 weeks after the Exodus. But the Exodus is what brings the giving of the Torah. The Exodus leads to the splitting of the sea. The believer believes without condition. And the skeptic will believe nothing until he sees hard evidence. There is no corroborating evidence that we have found, at least not to the satisfaction of historians. And this is troubling to students of Torah because we say the Torah is the Torah of truth, and truth should be manifest, apparently manifest. And so this is the trouble that those of us who are thinkers have when we confront historical dates, archaeology, and all the various theories that are taught in the universities. At first, I thought that I could answer those questions because being blessed with an ability to seek out the hidden answers within cryptic sources, I thought that I could do the same with history. And I found, to my dismay, I knew nothing. And there was no way for me to be able to answer the questions that were presented to me. And so I had a question. I had a series of questions, but I also had evidence of a different kind. The Torah talks about certain realities, hints at them, and these realities are recorded in the words of the Kabbalists and of Hasidim. And essentially, as Maimonides says in the 7th chapter of the Laws of the Principles of the Torah, God gives prophecy. God gives his knowledge to people. And unlike the contemporary sources and others, and some of the Talmud, Maimonides is of the opinion that God gives prophecy to all of mankind. Furthermore, Maimonides says that God gives prophecy to man if man is prepared, giving no physical, geographic location or time period when prophecy could be. This runs contrary to the accepted norm that A, prophecy is only possible for the Jewish people, B, it's only possible during the time of the temple, and C, it's only possible in the land of Israel. The Rebbe, who quotes Rambam, including Rambam's famous letter in one of his epistles, I don't remember if it was the epistle to Yemen or if it was in the what is called the Igeres Hashmad, the letter to those who were being forced to go and convert against their will. The Rambam writes that the time of Messiah is unknown, but the time of the restoration of prophecy will take place around the year 1216. Others say it was 1236. The point being that Moses recorded the words of the prophet Bilam, and he was talking almost 40 years after the Exodus, which is the year 2488, actually perhaps 2487. And if you double that, you have 974, 976, 4,976, which is 800 years ago, 804 years ago. And that would be 1216 or 1214, depending upon which year it would be, that according to Maimonides, prophecy would be restored. Maimonides only lived to the year 1204, and therefore he did not see this period of time. But the Rebbe says during that time, there was the great Ravid, Rabbi Avram ben David, and his son, Rabbi Yitzchak, the blind, and students of theirs, including the Ramban. Rabbi Nachmanides was living at the time, the Sefer Rekeach, and his son, Rabbi Yehuda Achosid, and others who at that time were on the level of prophets. And so prophecy was restored around that time. Now, how do we know that this happened? Ravid says that. Ravid said in one of his writings that it is known for the last 20 years in our hall of study, prophecy, that we have the Ruach HaKodesh, the divine presence. And so therefore, he was known to be a semi-prophet, if not a full-time prophet. His son, Rabbi Isaac the Blind, was said to be a full-time prophet, as were many who taught in those periods of time. Prophecy, when it comes directly from God, has to be 100% accurate. Ideology, which is based upon analysis, because you can't determine ideology by prophecy, ideology can be inaccurate in detail, not in the general principles, but in detail. That's why there were revisions to the Kabbalah of the Ramban. There were revisions of the Kabbalah of Rabbi Isaac the Blind. There were revisions to the Kabbalistic writings of Rabbi Yehuda Achosid. And all of these revisions were reformulated and developed by Rabbi Moses of Cordova, Moses Cordovero, Moshe Cordovero, and Rabbi Isaac Luria, known as the Ari. And subsequently to that, those spiritual teachings were then transmitted to the Baal Shem Tov and his students. Of course, the Lithuanian school will hold that the Vilna Gaon was a recipient of those schools as well, and that his knowledge was also prophetic. That being said, the question is, was there a prophet, was there prophecy among these students of the Kabbalah? And so, let me tell you, without a doubt, those of us who saw the Lubavitcher Rebbe and saw him more than one occasion and intimately in dealing with their life's problems, saw that the Rebbe was a prophet. Everything he said to me personally, in my personal life, took place exactly as he said. I could not have predicted it, but it came exactly as the Rebbe said. In 1967, there were 32 of us with passports that could leave Israel for Britain, for France, for the United States and Canada. It was going to be a war, a very dangerous war, a war that could have brought another Holocaust. And everybody was scared. One of the great Hasidic Rebbes left Israel with his entire family at the time of Israel's great danger. But he had lost a family with 10, 12 children beforehand. No one could blame him. Many Chassidim, many Litvische who had passports left the country. Only one man said, there is nothing to be afraid of. Stay here and study Torah, and Israel will be protected. And that was the Lubavitcher Rebbe who told us to stay. Directly or indirectly through the words of Rabbi Hecht or Rabbi Weinberg, Olav Sholem, both of them, we heard directly from the Rebbe that his father-in-law came to him and promised him that nothing would happen to us. And all we had to do was study Torah, and even those who were living in Jerusalem, just outside of the Jordanian riflemen, within range of their mortars, were studying in Rehov Me'ashorim in Teres Emes. The Rebbe said, stay and learn, and nothing will happen to you. And that's what happened. We know that there was a 6-day war, but nobody could have predicted it. Only one man predicted it, and that was Lubavitcher Rebbe. Yeah, Achrei Mos Kedoshim, after it happened, everybody claimed that they knew it was going to happen all along. But there was only one person who said to his Chassidim, stay and learn, and you'll be protected. And that was the Rebbe. The Rebbe understood what it meant to lose students and to lose only children. I won't go into all the details, but the question is there prophecy among Israel? And the answer is yes. There is and always was prophecy since the time that the Rambam said it would return from that year, from either 1214 or 1216 until now. The great Kabbalists, the great spiritual leaders of Israel knew what was going on, and they were just the same seers as Yeshayahu and Yirmiyah and Yechezkel and so on and so forth, because, as Rambam says in his letter, Nevuah will return to Israel, prophecy will return. So is there evidence for the Torah to be true? The answer is yes. Just look at the sages, look at the great people of Israel. Not just Lubavitcher Rebbe, but every great tzaddik. There are many hundreds, if not thousands, of stories of open Ruach HaKodesh, open godly knowledge that is impossible to have gotten without a direct connection to the Almighty Himself. There's a Rav Meirav whose article appeared recently in Mishpacha magazine regarding the death of his stepson. And he had the schus, the privilege of serving the Baba Sala, Rabbi Yisrael Abuchatzira. In one of his trips, the Baba Sali wanted to go to Meron from the Tivot. He had a car. The car was a gift, and none of the students of the Baba Sali knew how to drive. He knew how to drive, this Rav Meirav, and he was given the honor and the privilege of taking the Baba Sali where he needed to go. So the Baba Sali said, I want to go to Meron now. So he told him, Rebbe, the gas is almost on empty. We have to fill up for gas. He says, no, we won't need to fill up on gas. Just go. Every time he got near a gas station, he says, Rebbe, should I stop? And I said, no, it's okay. Just keep going. The whole trip was over 330 miles, 570 kilometers, he said. The tank registered empty, and they were able to go there and back without having to fill up, without the needle really, without them having to stop because of no gas. How did that happen? The answer is the Baba Sali was connected above, and he was a miracle person, just the same kind of miracle person as Shmuel Haroah, as the prophet Samuel, and other prophets of yesteryear. There's one time he saw the Rebbe, the Baba Sali, wrap a bottle of arak. That was his favorite drink he would disperse to his students, and they would take these 200 milliliter cups. 200 milliliter cups is approximately 6 ounces. I'm sorry, 8 ounces. No, 6 ounces. 6 plus ounces. 200 milliliters. About 7 ounces of arak. And he filled up those 200 milliliter cups. He poured out 6 cups, which together is 1,200 milliliters, out of a bottle that had only 750 milliliters. When people started looking at themselves and started questioning, the Rebbe says, oh, okay. And he opened it up, and that was the end of it. Had they not looked too hard, the Rebbe would have continued to pour out from that bottle to everyone who was there. So how is it possible that a man takes 750 milliliters, pours out 6 glasses of 200, which is 1,200 milliliters, and has most of the bottle left? The answer is, it's not something you can understand, but it's direct connection to God. The Rebbe, the Baba Sali, many other tzaddikim that people have seen, even in our times, we're not governed by the same rules. Ribnitzer Rebbe, all of the great holy Rebbes, the previous Belzer Rebbe, Rebbe Aaron of Belz, all of these people were l'mayla mederech hateva, beyond nature. And so the question is, can we see the truth of Torah? The answer is yes. Just look at the tzaddikim. Look at their lessons. Look at how they are consistent with the Torah. They embody the Torah. And then take a look at the survival of Israel. It says in the days of the future that Israel will return to its land, and they will inherit the gate of their enemy, and they will flourish. And Israel will be Osachoya, will be victorious. What has happened to the Jewish people in the last 75 years? We went from a people who were timid, who were afraid to rise up, because we saw that revolution and rising up brought only death and destruction. That's what happened with Bar Kochba. That's what happened many times in the Parthian lands with Mar Zutra, with Abba Yusuf in the 8th century. And the rabbis eventually said, no more revolutions. Mashiach will bring our people back. But in the last 75 years, Jews have fought back and have been victorious against all odds, not just from an army standpoint, from a physical standpoint. Israel's economy is incredible to behold. It's at the top of high-tech computer chips, medical advances, desalination, water preservation, agriculture, engineering, all of these things, all of these fields, Jewish people in Israel are dominating. And the country is going in an upward climb to become ultimately the most prosperous land in the world per capita. And you couldn't see it 40 years ago. You certainly couldn't see it 70 years ago. Certainly not 100 years ago. Certainly not when you saw that Jews were being murdered in the millions. So is the Torah true? We don't need historical proof. Just look at what's happening. The prophecy said that they're going to come back to their land. The prophecy said they're going to be victorious. The prophecy says that they're going to be successful and prosperous. Prophecy says that there will be joy and children in the streets of Jerusalem. The prophecy says that he's going to restore Jerusalem to the Jewish people, and they will build a temple there. Not all of this has happened, but it's happening right in front of our eyes. So do you need historical data? The answer is no, you don't, but it's still a problem. A student who goes into the universities is taught heresy, taught that the Bible is false. People like Israel Finkelstein are adamant that the whole record is made up. The same thing is true for most Egyptologists, for most historians, for most archaeologists. So if the historical record of the Jews are true, why is there no corroboration? And so, my friends, I turn you over to a Rabbi Alexander Houle. Rabbi Alexander Houle examined the basis for the chronology of the ancient world and found that it's based upon certain documents, happen to be documents of Jews. And the assumption that the historians had is totally false. He shows that in his book regarding world history, attacking the problem of Jewish history and world history, realigning it. He discovers that there are major errors in the whole process. So the reason why there is no corroboration in the ancient text is because you're looking at the wrong time. That's what Jacobovitz and Mahoney are saying. But it's even worse than that. The whole historical timeline is based upon a series of errors. And once you unravel, once the foundation is taken away, the whole building collapses. I met a man who wrote a book on the Seder Olam. He's a professor, a major professor, wrote a book, 1,200 pages, and his conclusions were that the Jewish Seder Olam is false. And I asked him, what should I tell my students? And his response to me was, speak to your local Orthodox rabbi. And I looked him in the eye and I said, I am the local Orthodox rabbi. What am I supposed to say? And his answer to me was, I can't help you. I tried to find different answers, but I have to thank Rabbi Houle, who is much younger than I, but has done the research, the historical research, and has shown that the basis of chronology that was considered so precise because they had gone over painstakingly every single document and every single event, and they recorded it, and they have to be right. And he shows they're all wrong. And the basis for all historical records and the reference points is all based upon later historians, not early historians. Egyptology has no real record that's accurate. It's based upon the writings of later Egyptians and Babylonians, and those are coordinated to see just how they parallel each other. And if their assumptions are false, then you're basing your chronology upon their assumptions, and the whole building falls as a result. The timeline in Seder Olam, Professor Rabbi Hul has shown to be accurate beyond belief. The timeline of Manetho, Herodotus, Thucydides, and all of those great historians of the past, he's shown to be false. So Simon Jacopovitz, Patrick Mahoney, rest easily, because it's only a paper tiger. The whole structure of the chronology of the ancient world is one big hoax.